Hi, this is Sheena, the Integrative Counselor. Just going to pop on here to tell you about a little bit, just a little bit of information about the trauma modality that's just lightened me up from the inside out, and wanting to share, what that is and with you all today. So I have been practicing the integration of both somatic experiencing and somatic, transpersonal, internal family systems together, along with the other ways that I practice how to resolve and process through trauma. And I'm loving it so much. I'm loving it so much because both of these modalities separately are wonderful. Together, they're magical. And both of these modalities invite in the mystical, the magical, and the spiritual, and often earth-based shamanism. I am also a shamanic apprentice in two different lineages, and I have loved practicing both of these together. And they are so nervous system based and richly embodied with nervous system practices. And what I love doing is integrating, spirituality with evidence based methods. And I can't speak enough about the two together. Not only is it faster, but it's gentler. And when it comes to healing trauma, that's really important. And it's also really super empowering, because we can invite in well ancestors. We can invite in processing through earth based energies, or the earth, or Mother Earth, or spiritual deities, ascended masters, angels, well ancestors, and land based spirits. And whenever someone comes up with as far as a spiritual support, and what that can do within someone's system is help diversify and reduce the amount of processing through the physical body when we do, because somatic trauma processing does work through the body, and this helps with that. And you can kind of consider, like, if I, as a practitioner, and the person, both in self energy, authentic self, somatic self energy, same, and then the invitation, which I call a self surrogate, whether that be Mother Earth or a spiritual deity that is benevolent, um, and or we can open up the invitation, shamanically, for supports to arrive. And this is very intuitive. And it also is self-directed by the individual. And so if they work with certain deities or um, spiritual supports, then they often will show up. But we have power animals that show up, and earth-based, and so many creative ways to heal. Uh, we know how to heal ourselves within, and my role is not to heal someone. My role is to help create the conditions for someone's natural process to unfold. And I, I mean, it's just the most magical process when I got out of the way. And as a practitioner, it's doing trauma work day in and day out. It's almost the only way for me not to get burnt out, because there's just a lot of energy that flows when you're doing trauma work. Um, and versus like talk therapy, this is processing, so it helps to resolve, at the root and at the core. And it's just beautiful. And so I wanted to just put some information out there. If you haven't done any of there's tons of information and videos about either or, and I'm combining them together. And so when we combine them together, it helps with kind of getting into the process a little faster, um, through someone's. I use various different portals, through movement, through breath, through body, through resonance, meaning what I'm picking up in the space between me and the other person, and through nervous system co-regulation. And there's a lot of other ways, like mindfulness strategies done in trauma trained ways that can be really helpful. So I just want to offer that because this is not really offered in this way. Um, Very many places, and most people don't know that they can heal this way. They can actually physically heal through the body, because parts of us can. Trauma responses are incomplete self protection responses in somatic experiencing. That's what a trauma response is, and parts are ways that our nervous system or our system gets fragmented to kind of like lessen the load of trauma, and parts to specialize in various trauma responses from being proactive, which proactive are kind of like socially acceptable trauma responses, to reactive, which for these parts, society often penalizes a person when they're blended with these parts, and there's a lot of shame that can come with these parts. However, this is the most creative way for individuals to who have trauma, who have complex or chronic trauma or systems trauma caused by various systems of society, and to lessen the load. And it's the most creative strategy for someone to still survive and function. And my role is just to stay really, really curious, and not to. I don't have an agenda, which is just a delight, because I just stay curious and in self energy. And having met all of my inner my inner workings, and having done the work myself, I'm not scared of anybody's parts. Um, and it's just such a beautiful process to relate, because self is just so compassionate and just so curious, and just has this wonderful feeling and state, and it's almost indescribable as to what is actually possible, and it's all true. And part of it is just getting really curious and getting open and expanding your just what you even think is possible. Oftentimes, we can kind of get limited because of even what society says as far as like how we can heal, or what's true, or what's really true. But if we reconnect with our authentic self, then really anything is possible when it comes to the healing. And then also, I think sometimes it's misunderstood when I talk about healing. Like I work with, when I'm working with someone with like neurodivergence, I'm not trying to heal the ADHD or autism. I'm trying to support the conditions for the trauma that person has experienced to be processed through, and then being someone who is a neurodivergence and disability expert, helping them accommodate so they can be authentically themselves. Sometimes, sometimes it is a maintenance of, because with complex trauma, no matter how like excited I am about practicing this way, complex trauma and chronic trauma comes with um, multiple different types of solutions, and no one practitioner is going to have all of that, and nor should they, because trauma work is deep attachment work, and the more safe people that someone is working with, the better for their system to have reparative, even paid professional relationships with individuals where they can have boundaries, and where they can be seen and heard and understood. So I wanted to just bring some information about how I have been practicing. I also offer, obviously, polyvagal mapping, nervous system retraining, psychedelic preparation and integration, the Safe and Sound protocol, which is amazing. I want to do a whole video on that one because that is not utilized enough, because that can totally reboot your entire nervous system, and refresh it. And then the integrated mental health and disability and neurodivergent support, spiritually transformative experience integration for those that have had mystical experiences, near-death experience, out-of-body experiences, experiences with benevolent beings, and dark nights of the soul, and those types of things. I love helping to integrate those processes. Also do quite a bit of mentoring for both healers and light workers, and then of course training and consultation for system change for organizations. Sometimes I occasionally teach and research and contribute to research and all of that. It's all, to me, it's all the same thing. So don't get impressed, because it's just that's just kind of what I'm interested in, and there's different ways to do that. And I really am enjoying being and playing in some of the transpersonal space, which is shamanic and spiritual, spiritually expansive states. And as there's more space and more expansive ways to help heal trauma and to lessen, like I said, the load of, if there's a benevolent tree or being that you want to send that, some of that trauma, charge and energy and stuckness to. It can be so helpful. And these are, again, some of the ways that I've personally healed. I often refer to this type of work as soul fragment retrieval. And I do that either through this way, through somatic experiencing and somatic transpersonal internal family systems, or through, I'm also a double Reiki master in the Usui and Karuna lineages. That's another way that I can assist with soul fragment retrievals, which are sometimes traditionally called parts, because parts are living energies, as are soul fragments. And my working theory is these parts, they like, it's like being shattered, and like that energetic capsule is contained within your soul or the unified field, same. And then you're bringing that back to you, whether through the body, through the somatic experiencing and somatic transpersonal IFS, or through energy work, both which I practice shamanically. I'm a reflector, and so the resonance field is one of my greatest gifts, as far as being a clear mirror, and that's been so helpful to know about myself, and that's something that I do bring into my work, because it is also a portal of unknowing and understanding, and it's a portal into healing, and that's been widely researched and stated, and it's deeply connecting to heal that way, and it's often like connecting to your, really like your intuitive inner child in that way, that which we all have access to or have covered up. Often, like, trauma is another analogy. I have so many, but trauma, another analogy is like your true self is just covered up with layers of like parts and incomplete self-protection responses, kind of playing as you, and sometimes polarized and have different ideas and specialize in various trauma, but at the core, it's still you, and that is still intact. And part of our job is kind of together is to excavate that, and then to heal that. It's not tossing off, and it's not. I move towards anything, and get really curious and ask a lot of questions. And so I wanted to share this information because a lot of times the healing process can be kind of obscure, and part of it is too, all of these words don't mean anything because these processes are very experiential, and it's that's why I try to make even like the first session give an experiential practice, so that through the felt sense, it's undeniable. It's let's get curious and see. And of course, versus some trauma theories, you do not go with the biggest first in these ways. No, no, that's not good trauma work. And so we don't start there. We start with building up your capacity to heal actually through your own body, through your own spirit, through your own consciousness, through your own, soul, however you, soul, psyche, same, however you conceptualize that. For me, it's really important to kind of bridge both science and spirituality, because these practices are neuroscience based and they're also deeply spiritual. And with having, I don't pick a side. It's both and if you relate more to one side or the other, that's okay. Like I said, I don't have really any opinion on your healing process because it's going to come through you. And it just takes a willingness, the willingness, um, and the belief, perhaps, or the hope that maybe healing is possible. And when I say healing, I'm meaning more curiosity, more compassion, more clarity, more patience, more play, more ease, more calm, better digestion, better sleep. I am not talking about perfection, and I'm certainly not talking about. There's certainly some things that the epigenetic lever has been turned on for so long that there's also the maintenance of, and that's why I also practice as a disability practitioner, so we can accommodate ourselves and we can maintain our physical, mental, and spiritual health, and so that we can, have more quality of life and have, more spoons and have more energy. Because what's true for one person with trauma is not for the next. And the nuance, every time I make a video and rewatch it later, I'm just like, I nailed it for somebody and I missed it for another. And that's just the nature of how complex it is. And that's just how it is. And it's complex, it's nonlinear, it's messy. It's messy for everybody involved, including me. And that's widely known. Um, and and it's deeply relational. It's deeply relational, and I do my best as to like owning my stuff, getting feedback, listening, boundaries, doing my own personal work so that when we're working together, that none of my stuff is in that space. And it's all about you and your healing and your personal development, your spiritual development, and your trauma alchemy and your soul fragment materials, whatever concept works for you. I'm gonna honor it because there are so many roads home and so many roads home, and it's not for me to get in the way of that. So hopefully this video has been illuminating and helping you understand. Again, none of it matters because it's experiential, and um, yeah, so try it out. There's a couple practitioners across the United States that do practice more transpersonally slash shamanically slash mystically. And I always recommend that they're also somatic and embodied. Otherwise, it can be a little bit more dissociating. We want to pair transpersonal with body, okay? Because guess what, boo? You are the bridge between heaven and earth. And so we want to connect. You want to start to bridge that together. And so that we can start to connect mind, body, emotions, spirit, energy within, and the alignment within. And that's our work together, is to create more alignment. As our thoughts are created through our body, right? And so we want to be more embodied with our practices. And the nervous system piece is so important, and the embodiment piece is so important, because we cannot be intellectual about the trauma healing when truly the body is keeping the score. And the body is wiser than the mind, has way more access to more information, and it is almost, it's mystical in nature just to relate to oneself, and that deep of a level, to really listen to the body, because the body actually has a different story that wants to be told, and it's communicating through thoughts, through posture, through meaning, through story, through behavior, through affect, through all of these different ways. And that's also the things that get fragmented with trauma and get displaced. And so part of it is coming into coherence with self and bringing that back in together. And that's the difference between talking about it and processing. Processing brings it back, and the integration. And that's what this lifetime is about the integration of all aspects of oneself, whole self healing, whole self being. In fact, and don't get it twisted. That means what is true for you is going to be different for another person. And please don't compare yourself to someone living outside of your body, because that's not relevant. That's not relevant to your situation and your lived experience. And so there are some universal truths, and then we have to come. It's this expansion between the macro to the micro, universal truths to personal truths. And okay, what works for me? Okay, and that's going to be different for everybody. It just is. And 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 we can heal. We do need some support that's trauma trained, multiple modalities. We need to practice. Trauma healing is a practice, and we need a lot of education. So hopefully this provided at least one of those pieces, the educational piece, and one-to-one work is helpful for some of the others. And then I love group practices and peer support, because that's one of the missing pieces, especially in the Western world, is the communal healing. And we need to bring this back. Okay, we need to bring it back, and it needs to be available, and to heal together and to share our stories with one another and all that. And so please don't stop at the individual level. Go to the communal level as well. It's all of that. That's all necessary. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of permission to get a little bit curious and gives you a little bit of information. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.